Hey guys, it's Will from the Back 40 and I hope you're having a great day. Recently, I was contacted by a good friend of mine with over 30 years experience in the federal government and national security. He shared something with me that was very concerning. I want to share that with you today. Have you ever wondered what happened to our old friend Elon Musk after his official departure from government service at the end of May? Well, as you might imagine, he's been busy. Besides repairing the damage to his own businesses caused by his brief tenure at the head of DOGE, he found time to leverage his service and access to the Trump administration to boost his artificial intelligence business, XAI. When the United States General Services Administration recently announced its new partnership with Elon Musk company XAI, it was pitched as just another step forward in the government's embrace of artificial intelligence. Now, this deal makes Grok chatbot available to federal agencies through the GSA's OneGov program, joining other AI providers like OpenAI, Meta, and Anthropic. But the speed and manner of Grok's return to federal procurement after being previously pulled from GSA listings has raised a lot of sharp questions about process, politics, and power. Several independent reports from multiple publications have not painted a great picture. Actually, they've laid out a picture of aggressive and politically charged reintroduction. Let's take a look at the themes that emerge from these different reports and what they reveal about Musk's increasing influence within the government post-DOGE. First of all, I want to talk to you about safety vetting and clearing. Multiple articles note that GSA's internal AI safety team tested Grok 4 and declared it acceptable for federal use. According to FedScoop, these tests repeatedly focused on whether the model could replicate earlier harmful or offensive outputs. GSA said the results met its internal standards. But when you know it, those standards haven't been published, and it's unlikely they ever will be. There's a lack of transparency regarding who conducted the evaluation, the criteria used, and whether any independent reviewers were involved. As FedScoop itself points out, the government's so-called AI clearing process is effectively what they call in government a black box. You can't see through it. Because without public scrutiny, there's no way to know whether Grok's approval was earned through technical merit or granted through political pressure, although I'm leaning toward the second. Second, I want to look at political pressure and procurement process. The Wired investigation offers a clearer glimpse behind the curtain. Leaked internal emails from GSA leadership show an urgent instruction, quote, Team Grok XAI needs to go back on the schedule ASAP per the White House, end quote. That's, quote, per the White House, end quote. Those emails written by the head of GSA's Federal Acquisition Service instructed staff to immediately coordinate with Carasoft, the government reseller responsible for listing Grok, and confirm that the reinstatement had begun. No mention of competitive review, no mention of reevaluation, just a directive to make it happen. This wasn't a routine contract action. It was a political order, pushed from above and carried out within days. The fact that a reseller like Carasoft was looped in so quickly underscores how little time or oversight stood between a White House email and a national procurement listing. I want to look at rapid reentry despite the scandals now. This would already be controversial, but the timing makes it worse. If you guys remember, earlier this year, Grok was removed from GSA's schedule entirely, and the reason is because the system had produced anti-Semitic and pro-Hitler statements during general public use. And those incidents triggered internal concern at GSA and were widely reported by Wired and FedScoop earlier in the year. But just months ago, Grok was quietly reinstated and given federal access once again. No public hearing, no formal explanation. XAI claims to have fixed the problem, adjusting filters and alignment, but hasn't provided evidence or published any test results. FedScoop notes that the company is, quote, committed to responsible AI development, end quote, but could not verify the scope or results of its corrections. So the question remains, what changed between Grok's removal and its sudden rehabilitation? If the answer is just White House pressure, then the government hasn't just reinstated a potentially flawed AI system, it's set another dangerous precedent of rewarding Trump-style cronyism, which in this case overrides the critical technical oversight. And finally, let's look at the ambitious scale and the stakes here. The scope of XAI's ambition goes well beyond office automation. As Politico reported, the Department of Defense has already begun negotiations under a separate contract that could total up to $200 million. The Pentagon wants to explore Grok for national security, healthcare, and scientific applications. That means a system that was just criticized a few months ago for extremist content could be advising or assisting federal defense operations. What could possibly go wrong? And yet the oversight still seems limited. The government's own AI marketplace may not be prepared for this level of vendor integration, especially one moving this fast. When a company with Musk's political reach begins embedding its technology in defense, science, and policy environments, the risk isn't just technical failure. It's the quiet erosion of independence and the potential for manipulation. Officially, Grok's deal is part of GSA's OneGov push, a program designed to streamline and centralize technology procurement. Other major vendors, like I said before, OpenAI, Meta, Google, Anthropic, are also on the list. Executive Gov, NextGov, and FedScoop describe OneGov as a marketplace where agencies can test models through GSA's USAI evaluation suite, compare features, and decide what fits their mission. But the reintroduction of Grok calls that fairness into question. How can competition remain credible and offer the most cost-effective solutions when one vendor gains entry through political directives instead of going through the same thorough evaluation process as the other major AI providers? Even if agencies have options on paper, political attention and administrative pressure will probably influence the adoption of the AI. Finally, every public statement about the XAI deal highlights Musk's promise to provide engineering support, hands-on integration, and upgrade paths to more secure, enterprise-grade versions of Grok. Executive, FedScoop, and Reuters all repeat this assurance, but none of them, not a single one, provide clear timelines, pricing, or conditions for these upgrades. There's no published plan for when or even if federal data will migrate to the more secure FedRAMP authorized environments. That means agencies could start deploying Grok in experimental or even operational settings long before robust cybersecurity controls are actually in place. In other words, the government might already be creating dependencies on a product that isn't yet compliant with its own cybersecurity standards, making it vulnerable to both internal and external threat actors. So the big picture is this. Taken together, these reports point to a single conclusion. The return of Elon Musk's Grok to federal service was not the result of a fair and open procurement process. It was the product of a political grift. Let's be clear, XAI is run by one of the most politically outspoken and economically influential figures in the world. The implementation of Grok into the federal government is a predictable outcome of Musk's earlier DOGE work. Its adoption has been so rapid that it's bypassed standard, fair, and open procurement and security procedures, suggesting that public accountability and safety were never the priority. Soon, every time a federal employee turns to Grok for analysis, summaries, or advice, the model will subtly shape how the government thinks, writes, and prioritizes, a form of influence more powerful than money. That influence may not be intentional, or it may be, but it will be unavoidable. And when that influence comes from a system created, owned, and controlled by Elon Musk, reintroduced due to political pressure from the White House, it ceases to be innovation. It becomes infiltration. Imagine the advantage Grok can subtly give Musk, both inside and outside the government. Over time, he could gain significant influence over areas like safety standards, etc. The bottom line is the possibilities for Musk are limitless, and so are the possibilities for grift and lack of security.